Despite having to start from scratch after suffering humiliating losses, they are now the most successful club in European history. This story began in the early 2000s. This is the whole history of Real Madrid. Originally, Madrid was an academic institution rather than even a football team. Real Madrid has a long history. They were first discovered in 1897, when a few academic students and employees of the Free Institution of Education brought football to Madrid. In the same year, these people went on to form the Sociedad Sky football team. But by 1900, there was a fight among some of the players. It led to the formation of a group, and the new players named their squad the Nueva Sociedad de FuŁtbol. By October 1901, the Nueva Sociedad de FuŁtbol team had evolved into what is currently known as Real Madrid. They performed in the Moncloa, El Solar de Estrada, and Tiro de Pico between 1901 and 1902. The stadium modifications went on, but by this point, the reporters had urgent matters to attend to. Their team required a new moniker. The leaders of the group from which the new Madrid split, the Peters brothers, suggested the name Madrid Football Club, decided on white as the team's official uniform color, and on March 6, 1902, the team was formally established alongside 28 other socios. The Madrid Football Club won their first trophy 3 years later in 1905. It would be the beginning of something special, Bilbao in the Spanish Cup final. Madrid became a member side of the Spanish Football Association in 1909 after signing the foundation agreements of the association. You'll note that up until now, I've been calling them the Madrid Football Club. There's a reason for that. See, at this time, the official name of the team was Madrid Football Club, the initial name they'd gotten from the year 1901. By 1920, it all changed, thanks to this guy, King Alfonso XII. Now, what did he have to do with this? Well, it was in 1920 that he granted the title of royal to Madrid. Translate this, and that's how the name the world is very familiar with came into existence. Real Madrid Football Club. Right, so they've got the name and kits all sorted now. It's down to the football. In 1929, the first Spanish football league started, and honestly, Real Madrid should have won it. They led the league up until the final day, but in the final game of the season, they lost to Athletic Bilbao. And this, in reality, kicked off a rivalry that would become eternal. Barcelona won the league instead, and it wasn't until the 1931-32 season, Madrid finally became league champions. Once they finally got a taste of what Spanish league success was, they didn't stop. The following campaign, they became the first team to win the league back-to-back. The next 2 years, though, they were runners-up again, and they had been itching to regain their status as La Liga champions. But over the course of the next 2 seasons, the Spanish Civil War happened, meaning no league football was played in Spain for the period the war was going on. And by the time the Civil War had ended and club football was back, the next significant piece of Madrid's history was the El Clasico of 1943, a scoreline that remains staggering in football history. They beat Barcelona 11-1. A new dawn was at the club, the start of an era with a name that would become synonymous in Madrid's history. In that year, Santiago Bernabéu became president of the club, and under him, Madrid as an enterprise expanded. He rebuilt the club after the Civil War, and it was under him the club's youth academy was created. But perhaps the most significant achievement under Bernabéu was this: the creation of Madrid's legendary home, the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium. By the time 1953 rolled around, Madrid had become so big, they started a policy they'd resume years later, and that was signing the best players in the world to play for the team. Names like Alfredo Di Stefano, Ferenc Puskás, and Santillana. All these guys became associated with the white kid of Madrid, and the club flourished. During Bernabéu's 35-year spell as Madrid president, they won 6 European Cups, the first in the 1956-57 season. 16 league titles at this point didn't just make them the most decorated team in Spain, but one of the biggest in the world. 6 Spanish Cups too, but by 1978, Bernabéu unfortunately died. New president Luis de Carlos emerged as president, but that didn't stop the club from winning. By 1980, Madrid was once again in the history books. France Football magazine had named them as the best European team of the year. The 1982 World Cup finals held in Spain saw the final match played at the Bernabéu. On the field, though, things were different. Club legend Alfredo Di Stefano had returned as head coach of Real, but the failure to achieve any real sporting success meant he was sacked and told to leave. Madrid still managed to win their first two UEFA Cup titles against Videoton and Köln. The 1980s on a whole was a truly great period for Madrid. They won 2 UEFA Cups and 5 La Liga titles in a row, but on the European scene, Madrid needed more. At this point, AC Milan had now become the dominant force in European football, and it was so crazy that even when Madrid appointed Fabio Capello as manager in 1994, Capello left after 1 year, and the search for European glory was on. It sounds strange to even think about it, but if Real Madrid as a football club had gone 22 years without winning the Champions League in its old format, the European Cup, they managed to win it in 1998, beating Juventus in the final. But the managerial chance of the club by the end of the year highlighted the instabilities going on in Madrid. Despite the success of the club on the European stage, they won the Champions League again in 2000. They'd gone through 8 different managers in 4 years. That's at least 2 managers every year. By 2000, though, things were set to take a new turn. Let's just call it the start of the Real Madrid era the world has now become familiar with. Florentino Perez, a man synonymous with Madrid's success over the last 20-plus years, but his rise to the top as president of the club was based on a lie. In the year 2000, Perez announced his bid to run for Real Madrid's presidency, and amongst promises like helping the club get rid of its debt and improving the club's facilities, Perez's campaign was based on an impossible dream. He promised the Madrid socios and fans that if elected as president, he would get Luis Figo, the best player in the world at the time, and starman of arch-rivals Barcelona, to come over to Madrid to play for Real. Perez made the media and fans believe it was a done deal, while in reality, it wasn't. A lot still had to take place for this to happen, but in the end, he somehow made it work. Perez was elected as the new president of Real Madrid, and days later, he made good on his promise. Figo to Madrid happened. The signing of Figo to the team began the start of the Galacticos 2.0, just as they signed players like Di Stefano and Ferenc Puskás back in the day. Perez wanted to continue this policy, and in return, he signed the best players in the world wearing the iconic Madrid kit, Zinedine Zidane from Juventus for a world record fee of €77.5 million in 2001, Ronaldo Nazario from Inter Milan 1 year later in 2002, to follow that up with David Beckham from Manchester United in 2003. And Madrid had now assembled one of the best teams in the world, on paper at least. The football at the start of the 2000s was decent. They won the champions in 2000 and 2002, including that iconic Zidane goal in the final versus Leverkusen. But after winning another league title in 2003, it cooled off, for they did not win any significant prizes in the following 3 seasons. On the contrary, Barcelona had now reached almost the same level as Madrid, and the internal investigation started. After Perez was fired in 2006, Ribon Calderon was named the team's new president, and he got to work ensuring Madrid was once again the best team in Spain. When new players like Ruud van Nistelrooy and Fabio Cannavaro were signed, it was somewhat successful. After defeating Barcelona in a match on the final day of the season, they were crowned champions of the league once more, their first in 4 years. However, Madrid as a team experienced one of the lowest points in the club's history throughout the course of the following 2 seasons. Not only were they eliminated twice in the round of 16 of the Champions League, but they were also eliminated from the Copa del Rey by Real Union, a team from the 3rd division. To make matters worse, their 6-2 loss to Barcelona at the Nou Camp almost cemented their position as the new Spanish superpower. Madrid had lost ground. They have to get back up and turn into the group and force they once were. They therefore went back to where they had started and brought with them a well-known face to lead affairs. Perez was returning for a second term, and it was sure to be historic. This time, the 3.0 Galacticos era began, and Madrid made a significant impression. Thus, placing him in direct competition served as a signal for the club's goals. There were other notable additions to the team that season besides Ronaldo. Now that Mourinho was no longer in charge, the Italian worked his magic. After winning the Champions League, it appeared like Real Madrid was finally at the top and here to stay. La Decima arrived in spectacular fashion, with Cristiano Ronaldo smashing records along the way. However, their opponents returned with greater vigor a year later. For the second time in 6 years, Barcelona captured the treble. How did Madrid respond? Perez restored a legendary club player to the dugout. Something exceptional began with Zinedine Zidane's appointment as head coach.